Well, the second stop on Donald Trump's thank you tour is about to begin tonight. We're going to have it in just a minute. The president-elect will be in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you will hear him as soon as he takes the stage. But is this tour bringing Democrats on board with Trump's vision for how to run the country? And if not, why not? Joining us now is Eric Guster. He's a trial lawyer and political commentator and a frequent guest on this channel. Eric, it's great to see you tonight.
Great seeing you, too.
I'm just struck that Trump has rolled out all kinds of unexpected nominees and taken all kinds of unexpected positions. Not all of them are traditionally conservative. In fact, many are not traditionally conservative. And I haven't heard anyone on the left address them. No one has said, you know, I agree with this, I disagree with that. They're still caught up in the Donald Trump is a bad person, he's immoral line of argument, which isn't really an argument. It's more an epithet. Why? Why is nobody on the left assessing what he's saying?
Well, Donald Trump is his worst enemy. He's tweeting about SNL on Saturday night when he should be studying a Cliff Notes version about ISIS and how to fix his economy. He's been doing these things himself, Tucker, and he has not talked to the left. He's not talked to the different positions that the left is traditionally very strong in as far as the African-American community, the LGBT community. No, he's not addressed those different communities and trying to bring them under his fold. He's just been on his, oh, I won this election tour, so I'm going to go around and boast and brag about that and cancel contracts with Boeing.
I think
and
you may have been in an
things.
isolation tank the last couple of weeks. Let's see, yesterday he met with Al Gore. Is that far left enough for you?
Right. Okay. He did meet with Al Gore.
That's one.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. What else has he done, Tucker?
Well, his urban policy. He's been talking incessantly in a pretty interesting way about rebuilding America's cities, a direct pitch to African-American voters who didn't really give him much support in the election, but he's still reaching out to them. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying he talks about it a lot. What do you think of the details of that plan?
Tucker, when he talks about African Americans, he puts us all in this bowl of inner cities, which that is, number one, is very degrading for him to say that. And number two, is actually incorrect, because the inner cities, or many of them, have a lot of gentrification, where the inner cities are not filled with African Americans. They're filled with a melting pot of other people, which many of those people who were originally in the inner cities can't even afford to live there anymore.
Okay.
You look at Brooklyn, you look at Chicago.
We're dealing in generalizations here, so let's just get really specific.
No, those are specifics. Those are specifics.
Well, here's one I'd like you to address. So and far be it for me to flack for Trump, I just think it's important to address what he's actually saying rather than his SNL tweets, which I agree with you are probably a distraction. So, but on education policy, for example, Betsy DeVos, he's nominated her to be the Secretary of Education. She's famous for her support for charter schools, for school choice. That's an idea that over 75% of African-American voters support, according to the polls. NAACP, which is apparently not representing those voters, disagrees. So you've got to say on that issue, which is not a small issue at all, he's on the side of the majority of black voters in this country. Why not celebrate that?
Well, that's one potential issue, and I believe that I don't believe that that majority of African Americans support charter schools, because oftentimes charter schools will take away.
I mean, no, maybe they're lying.
No, Tucker. A lot of the charter schools will take away from the other public schools, and that does not really broaden the educational opportunities for all the children. That's why so many African Americans
it depends where you sit. I mean, if you're rich enough to send your kids to private school, you know, it's an abstract academic problem that we can debate. But if you are stuck in some crappy school and you have an option to go somewhere else, you may be in favor of it. And by the way, that's not speculation. Every poll I've ever seen on that question shows that African American voters support charter schools, and you can kind of see why. I mean, maybe they don't work, that's a separate argument, but they support them. And so why isn't that a meaningful position? Where you send your kids to school is one of the biggest questions any parent faces.
But you still have a candidate, well, he's not a candidate, he's a president-elect, who does these distractions himself, Tucker. He's the one who's not talking about it. He's the one who's talking about someone spoofing him on the Saturday Night Live show.
Well,
he's the one who's going after these people
for to be education secretary. Okay, wait, come on. Okay, look, I get it.
Okay,
and I'll give you 2 things
in a couple of weeks, Tucker.
No, but hold on, Eric. Isn't it partly our fault in the press and in the commentariat that we're ignoring some actual questions? And by the way, you can disagree with them. You can say, you know, I think Betsy DeVos is a bad choice, or General Mattis is bad for these reasons. But we're so focused on identity politics and its manifestations, which are at root really pretty dumb, that aren't we missing the story, which is this guy is not behaving like a typical Republican at all. And that's a new and different thing.
He's not acting like a typical politician at all, whether Republican or Democrat. Canceling, threatening Boeing is one example of that, where Boeing was supposed to do a new fleet of planes for a president who's not even him. So he wants to threaten this plane manufacturer from producing new Air Force Ones, which is not the right thing to do. And he's also lied about Carrier and some other issues as well.
Slow down. So you think that whatever Boeing is charging for these two 747s, the replacements for Air Force One, that's a good number, and it's somehow immoral to question that? Is that your point?
I did not say it's immoral to question that. He said he was canceling the order. That's different from that's different from canceling an order for them. Is a lot different than renegotiating a price.
Okay, that's
a lot different thing.
But why?
Right?
I mean, look,
right?
I don't know
Tucker?
that it is right. I don't know enough about it, but I suspect
okay
you don't either. And that's kind of my point. Why should we, because it's never been done before, say, whoa, wait a second, I've never heard that before, I'm against it? That's sort of the, we hate everything we don't understand. It's kind of an 8th grade posture, not an adult one, right? I mean, what specifically is wrong with canceling that contract? Do you know?
There's nothing specifically wrong with canceling a contract. However, no. He said he tweeted that he's going to cancel his contract. He didn't say that he was going to try to renegotiate it. And this is for the president who's going to come after him. And this is Donald Trump's fault for actually creating this media narrative of himself. He says he hates the media, but he's the one who is really being the puppeteer for the media. He's controlling the message. He's trying to distract us from certain issues, and that's why you and I are here talking about it today.
Right. So, well, actually, I'm trying to ask you substantive questions, and you're the one who is totally distracted. Squirrel, by his tweets. I mean, right?
Well, so but you have a president-elect who's acting like a 12-year-old, Tucker. You have a president-elect who's acting like a 12-year-old, and that's shameful on the GOP.
Okay, right. Shameful on the GOP.
Won't you admit that?
But it doesn't
won't you admit that he's acting like a 12-year-old with tweeting about someone who hurt his little feelings?
Look, it's not my favorite way to communicate. It's not my favorite way to communicate. But let me just say.
No, but answer that question, Tucker. Admit it for me. Just once agree with me that he acts like a teenager who's tweeting about some nonsense.
Okay, whatever.
It's okay.
But you're missing my question, which is, isn't it incumbent upon us to assess what he's actually saying? And you're saying, no, yes. I'm so horrified
no, I just said
that he's
yes.
speaking through Twitter rather than through a press conference. I'm going to ignore the substance of it. And you're also making the case it's wrong for him to cancel or say he's going to cancel a Boeing contract, but you refuse to explain why that would be bad. And my only point is, I'm open-minded. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad contract.
And we have to start exploring those issues. I'm not saying that we need to ignore the issues. The media does need to do a better job of explaining certain issues. The media does need to do a better job explaining certain issues, explaining his cabinet picks, the pros and cons of both of them. And yes, Twitter is a big deal because that's part of the reason that he won, and that's how the president-elect is actually communicating with people. So it is a news story that is very valid for us to discuss because that's coming from the leader of the free world starting next January. So this is what he's doing, and he's creating that narrative.
But don't you think it's just easier just to call him a racist and call it a day? Racist. I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to hear anything you say.
Who called him a racist?
Well,
I didn't say he was a racist.
That's kind of, I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying that's kind of been the position. That was a position of the Hillary campaign. He is not worthy of being president. We're not going to think through anything that he says. We're going to ignore him because he is morally beneath us. I guess my point is, if that's your position,
but
then you're going to miss a lot of changes, which are pretty interesting.
That question that you were stating implied that I was stating that he was a racist. I didn't say that.
No, I'm not saying that.
He is kind of childish, and he has very thin skin, and I have said that on many occasions, and he needs to grow up and stop doing those types of things. But we do need to address certain issues with him.
Good.
We do need to get into his policy that he hasn't really revealed much of that, if any, if he even has it. So we need to do that, and the media must do a better job of examining that, giving us pros and cons.
I think I'm bringing you over, Eric. I think I'm bringing you to
bringing me over where?
I appreciate that.
To the
right side.
Oh man, please.
Thanks, Eric. Good to see you tonight.